Hello everyone, welcome to the Totally Well Show. I'm your host, Joyce Strong. The Totally Well Show is the place where we get curious, ask questions, and explore everything to do with health, wellness, fitness, and all the things it takes to help you live the highest quality, most fulfilling life. I have my repeat guest, Karen Regan, here. She was on one of the earlier shows, the second or third show.
Back in November.
Yeah, it was one of the earlier shows, and Karen is a life coach and energy healer. You can find her at her website, KarenReganEnergyHealing.com. And are you also on Facebook? Do you have a Facebook page?
I am on Facebook. Yeah, I am.
Yeah.
Yep, I do have a page. Yep.
And since I interviewed Karen, she's been really expanding in this whole life coach and energy healing space. So you are a Reiki master.
Yes.
You do EFT, which stands for
Emotional freedom tapping.
Emotional freedom tapping.
Yep.
You've become a hypnotist, so you've studied hypnosis.
Yes.
You've already were doing aromatherapy and NLP, which is neuro-linguistic programming.
Yes.
Recently volunteering at the Lowell General Hospital and expanding there and to doing Reiki.
Yes. Yep.
With patients and also with the healthcare with the nurses.
Yeah. It's been
And
great.
you also see people at New Hampshire Health and Wellness Center.
I do.
Yeah.
I do. Yeah.
And where do you live?
I live in Shirley.
In Shirley, that's right.
Yeah, I live right in
So, just to remind people, because your life story is so powerful of how you got into this, like where did this desire to start working and helping people, and particularly with life coaching and energy healing, where did that start for you?
For me, I've been a life coach for about 15 to 20 years now, and I expanded into the energy healing when my husband got sick with heart disease. I was looking for something a little bit more natural to help him because his medications were causing a lot of side effects.
Yeah.
And so I was looking for something more natural, and I found Reiki, and I just love the Reiki. And so I was giving it to him last year when he was in the hospital, and one of his nurses came in and said, "Oh my gosh, I would love if you could do this for some of my other patients." And so after he passed, I thought, well, why don't I go and offer it to some of the patients there? It was some way for me to give back and a way for me to feel good about using my skills and tools and trying to help people who were sick. And then from there, it's really caught on with the nursing staff. So I would say I'm mostly doing the Reiki right now with the nurses.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I have right now, I would say about 6 different departments that just beg for it. I give them about 10 minutes because they're working.
Yeah.
So they've set up a little private room for me, and I give them about 10 minutes of Reiki, and they just love it.
So tell me about Reiki, and for our viewers to understand what happens in Reiki, like physically what is happening, and what you have to do to be part of a 10-minute or longer Reiki session.
Okay, yeah, Reiki is it's energy healing. So energy comes through me into you. So it's not my energy that I'm transferring to you. It's coming from the ground, the universe, whatever you want to believe. And so it transfers into the person who's receiving it. So you're really self-healing. So I do a light hands-on touch on different chakras on the body, and it just gets the energy flowing. I always compare it to like a clogged sink. The water's not going down efficiently. It might be chugging down, but it's not going efficiently. And sometimes our energy gets blocked. And so what I'm doing is just opening up the energy so that the energy is flowing more efficiently.
So a person, when they're having Reiki, they could be fully clothed, sitting in a chair?
Yeah, Reiki's wonderful because you don't have to take off clothes. You can be anywhere. You can be sitting, you can be lying down, you can be standing. And I just do a light hands-on touch. If somebody, for instance, at the hospital has had an operation and they don't want their stomach touched, I can hover too. So you don't even have to touch.
Okay.
It's beautiful. It's gentle. It can be used for the elderly, for the young.
How do you know where to touch? Like what?
I'm kind of guided.
Yeah.
I can feel the energy.
Yeah.
And so I'm sort of guided on where to go. I have a pattern that I start from top of the head to the feet.
Yeah.
But, if I get to a certain spot and I'm not really feeling much, I'll move on.
Yeah.
Or if something's sort of calling me,
Yeah.
I kind of move to that area. And sort of linger there a little longer.
Can you describe what you feel?
Yeah, it's funny. I feel a cramping in my hands when
Yep.
I'm feeling a block, yeah. And so, yeah, I can tell where there's a little bit of a blockage. And it's never bad. People always say to me, oh my gosh, is that bad? It's not bad. It just means that there's just a little bit of blockage there. Your energy's not flowing as efficiently
Yeah.
as it could be or should be.
Yeah.
But not bad energy. It's never bad. And so I had a patient, for example, I don't know, maybe a month and a half ago, where she was in, it's kind of a funny story, she was in for a stomach block.
Yeah.
And if she couldn't pass the blockage, they were going to have to operate.
Yeah.
And so I was working on her belly a little bit, and all of a sudden it started really rumbling.
Yeah.
You could really hear it rumbling. And she said,
And when
"Oh,
you say
wow."
working on, you're not, I'm a nurse, so I'm thinking, oh, she's manipulating the colon.
Yeah,
but you're not doing that.
Mm-mm. I just lay my hands very gently on the belly.
Yeah.
So manipulating the energy,
Yeah.
but not actually manipulating
You're not
the skin.
pressing and
No.
pushing and
No,
yeah.
it's very,
yeah.
very light touch. As I
Yeah.
said, if it's painful, then I can just hover.
Yeah.
So I was working on her stomach, and she started rumbling, and she said, oh my gosh, listen to that. And then you could really feel it. She said, feels like I have a baby in here. And then she passed gas,
Yeah.
and she was mortified. But I said, no, this is great. It's energy moving. That's your energy moving.
Yeah.
And so whatever happened to her after that, I don't know, 'cause I don't follow up with patients, just for privacy.
Yeah.
But, something was moving for her, and she was thrilled because she was starting to feel better. The pain she was feeling in the belly
Yeah.
was starting to dissipate.
Yeah.
So you can physically feel it working sometimes.
Do you have a conversation with people ahead of time to find out what they present with? Do they tell you something presenting?
I don't ask why the patients are in the hospital. Again, I feel that's a private. If they care to share, that's fine. But I don't need to know why they're there for Reiki to work.
Okay.
I find most people do tell me, because I will ask, is there an area that you don't want me to touch that might be sensitive?
Yeah.
Or is an area that you do want me to work on? And so then usually they will share, but I do not ask why they're in the hospital. I
Okay.
feel that's none of my business, and I don't need to know. Because
Okay.
the Reiki will do its thing. It's like an aspirin. I always say it's like an aspirin. Reiki goes where it's needed.
Yeah.
It knows where it needs to go.
Yeah.
So I don't ask, but most people share.
Yeah.
And I had another patient, and this was amazing too. She had cancer. And for some reason, she couldn't move from her hips down. So her legs, her feet weren't moving.
Yeah. She was paralyzed.
She was paralyzed, yeah.
Yeah.
And so I was going to say working on her feet. So I was just kind of touching her feet, very lightly touching her feet. And all of a sudden, she looked at me and she said, my toes just moved.
Yeah.
And I said, you couldn't move your toes before the Reiki? And she said, no, look.
Yeah.
And she started moving her toes. So it's just amazing what it can do.
Yeah.
It's just amazing. So that's some of the patients' experiences. But the nurses usually come to me for stress.
Yeah.
Nursing is obviously a high-stress job.
Yeah.
And they work so hard that I usually just give them 10 minutes of Reiki. And that right there, they tell me, is phenomenal.
Do you have some examples of what happens with the nurses when they come in or leave you?
Yeah, I had one patient who had terrible migraine. Terrible migraine.
When you said patient, you meant a nurse.
I mean nurse, sorry. Everybody's a patient to me.
Yeah.
But yeah, a nurse, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
He had a terrible migraine, and so I worked on his head a little bit longer because he said he had the headache.
Yeah.
And it was gone after a 10-minute session.
Wow.
Yeah. And then I had one woman, a nurse, who she had a lot of stress. Her mom had just passed away the night before.
Ooh, and she had to come to work?
And she came to work, and she was heading to Maine later that day because that's where her mom lived. So she was very, very stressed.
Yeah.
And so I gave her 10 minutes of Reiki. And she said, Karen, that the difference I feel is just incredible. I feel just so much lighter and so much less stressed out. So just 10 minutes alone can make a world of difference.
How much talking do you do during a session, if any?
I leave that up to the client, and I kind of prep the whole session with saying that I will be quiet unless they want to initiate conversation. Some people like to share what's going on the entire time. Some people see colors, some people have feelings, some people see spirit guides, and they like to tell me as we're doing it. And other people just like to sit and absorb the Reiki and just experience the Reiki. So I tell them at the beginning, I'm going to be quiet unless you decide to speak, which is perfectly fine either way. The Reiki works either way. So I like to give the client what they need. And so it's kind of different for everybody.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow, those are great stories. It's really just amazing how much the body can do for itself.
Absolutely. And I can also tell a little bit of a story about people, because there are chakras in our body. We all have 7 chakras, and they mean something different. So sometimes I'll be working on a patient, for example, and I'll say, okay, I can feel a little bit of blockage in the heart chakra. So the heart chakra could be the actual heart, or your arms are an extension of your heart chakra. And then I might feel a little blockage in, let's say, their throat chakra. And so I'll say, okay, heart is relationships, love, connection. Could be with family, friends, coworkers, could be with anybody, but it's connections to people. And throat is communications. It's speaking your needs, telling people what you want, what your desires are. So I'll say, is there something you want to say to somebody and you're not saying it? Because I'm feeling a little bit of blockage in the communication and in the heart. So I feel like there's something you need to say to somebody that you're not. And let's say, oh my God, are you psychic? And no, but your body speaks.
Yeah.
Your body speaks to us.
Yeah.
And so sometimes I can tell what the blockages are saying.
So will a person then share that with you?
Often they will.
Yeah.
I'll just say, does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
Again, if they want to share, that's fine. And if not, that's fine too. 9 times out of 10, they say, yes, it makes total sense.
Yeah.
And from there, we can even take it into the life coaching. That's kind of where life coaching
where you
can tie into, where if they want to talk about that and try to, help move beyond the obstacles. And certainly we can get into life coaching too. But the Reiki definitely tells a story on what your body's doing and going through. It communicates.
It seems to me, I haven't done a Reiki treatment. I did something similar to it called REAP. I don't know if you've heard about that.
I have heard of it. I'm not that familiar with it.
With Pamela Dussault. I'll tell you about it in another. Actually, we did a show, so you can watch her show and see. But it's similar to that. And Karen Campbell did the treatment with me. And my experience there was, I think it was about a half an hour, where I was just quiet listening to her talk. There was no hands-on thing, but it gave me just time where I was just in the moment, in the present. I was with her in this room, aware of her presence and the things hanging on the wall and the sounds I could hear through the window, and just with me and just trying to stay present.
Yeah. Listening
to my own breath. A few times I felt a little bit like, whoa, I think I'm falling asleep.
Yeah.
So I didn't feel anything. I didn't feel like this big thing happening. But what I did find is I had come into there just like, this is a half an hour of my life, and then I got to go on and do other things.
Sure.
But at the end of it, when she offered to ask, well, what went on, I felt like talking. Like I was more relaxed, for sure, and just naturally felt like talking and sharing. Yeah. So it was an interesting, I think, a relaxation and helping me to get out of my head, more listening to my body, perhaps.
It does. It helps you connect to your inner self. It really does.
Yeah.
And I say to people at the beginning of the session, expect nothing.
Yeah.
Because what's going to happen for you is going to be a totally different experience that happens with somebody else.
Yeah.
As I said, some people see colors, some people see angel guides, some people see deceased loved ones, some people just feel completely relaxed, and that's what they feel. So I just try to tell people, don't have any expectations and just experience what you experience.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, for sure, it was a way to get out of my head. That part of it where, you allow your thinking brain to determine the thing you do next, or and that part of the brain is not always the smartest.
Right. Doesn't always know what's best for us. No.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah.
That's beautiful. I wanted to ask you about some of the other things that you're doing. I'm curious about the hypnosis piece that I think you had mentioned you were planning to do this, and now you've done it and you're practicing it. So
yes.
Tell me more about some of the myths about hypnosis and what actually happens and how it can help.
So the hypnosis is great. I just got certified by Lois Herman in Nashua.
Yeah.
And, you know, a lot of people, the first thing everyone says to me is, are you going to make me quack like a duck or bark like a dog? Everyone says that. So let's get that out of the way because I know you're going to ask. And no, I'm not. Not unless you want to.
Yeah, I
So
was going to say, it sounds like
hypnosis-
fun, actually.
Yeah, well, and you can. You know, you can do it if you want to. But, I mean, hypnosis it's really a hyper-focused meditation. That's the best way I can explain it.
Okay.
And so, you know, people meditate and you're trying not to think of anything and you're trying to empty your mind. But hypnosis, I'm actually taking you on a journey. So you're going to be doing a lot of work with hypnosis. Your brain is actually going on a journey with me. So I put people under, and not everyone can be hypnotized. So everyone can't be hypnotized. So I do a few tests to see if you can or you can't be, and that will determine if you can. But if you can, I take you on a journey. And it's a hyper-focused attention. So have you ever driven down the highway and missed your exit? And you think, oh my gosh, I just drove right by. That's a form of hypnotism. Or if there are kids who are playing a video game or they're on their phones and the mom and dad are saying, hello, you know, are you paying attention to me? That's also a form of hypnotism. So everybody has been hypnotized at some point or other. But it's not what people think. It's not the quacking like a duck or, you know, barking like a dog. That's staged. That's fun. Everyone sees it on TV or you've seen a show. But that's not really what it is. It's a journey. You'll be listening to my voice, and I'll be taking you on a journey.
So what kind of a journey? Can you talk a little bit about that? What happens?
Yeah, and it's sort of different for whatever people's needs are for coming here. It's reprogramming your thoughts and your beliefs. So somebody may come to me for, let's say, eating. You know, I overeat and I don't want to overeat anymore.
Okay.
And so it's really, for me, to plant positive reinforcement into your subconscious. I'm getting into your subconscious, and it's just retraining how you think about it. So I might be taking you on a journey where, you know, now you're going to be eating healthy, and you're not going to overeat, and you're going to feel full and satisfied after this healthy meal you've just had. And so it's really implanting positive and reinforcing messages into your brain. And so that could be a journey. I also do age regression. And so people may come with a little bit deeper issues, and so we may age regress them and take them back to when they were 2 years old, when maybe something traumatic happened. And I'll have that child, that 2-year-old, rewrite the story and change the story. So it kind of depends on what people are coming for. So again, kind of like the Reiki, it's your own journey depending on what your needs are. But there's just so many misconceptions about it. You know, you're aware if people are under. You know, when I went under, I could hear cars passing, traffic, doors opening and closing. You know, I was very aware of what was going around me. Just my mind was just very focused on what my teacher was taking me on my journey. But I was certainly aware of everything going on around me.
Yeah.
And you know, had I wanted to open my eyes, I certainly could have. She didn't have total control over me. You're still in control of yourself.
It's a voluntary journey. It's not something that you're out of control.
Yes, absolutely. I love how you put that, voluntary journey. And if at any time someone's feeling uncomfortable or something doesn't feel good for them, they can come out of it at any time.
And do people converse with you during this journey? Like if you're saying something about whatever the subject is, and do people get into a dialogue with you?
They do.
Yeah.
They do, yes. It's definitely a back and forth conversation. They share with me what they're seeing, what they're feeling, what they're thinking.
So you ask some questions?
I do.
I like that.
I'm a scribe. I'm pretty much a scribe. It's their journey.
Yeah.
And I keep them in a safe space, and I scribe for them, and I kind of help, as I said, rewrite the story.
Can you tell if it gets too scary for somebody?
They'll tell me.
Yeah.
And if someone's gone through, let's say, a traumatic experience, they don't have to go through it again. Under the hypnosis, I will tell them to put it on a video screen. You're just watching it, you're not reliving it. They do not have to relive the trauma, which is really important for people to know. They're not going to go through it again.
Yeah.
So I'll be there with them, which is why it's really important to have somebody there with you on this journey to kind of guide you, and to make sure that you don't start reliving it and start feeling those feelings again. That won't happen. So we'll make sure that again, you're sort of removed from it, and you might be watching it like you're watching a movie, but you're not actually reliving those emotions.
So it sounds like an opportunity to understand what happened in terms of trauma, say, particularly with the age regression and the trauma, to be able to understand the context in which a story got created in the first place, and maybe see it was what you did to save your life, perhaps, or something. It was the best way for you as a young child to make sense and survive.
And it's empowering too.
Yeah.
Because you're empowering that child to have control over the situation now. Again, it's rewriting the story. So when I was hypnotized, I had a situation where I had an issue with my mom. And so I think I went back to maybe 5 or 6 years old. And I was taking blame for her unhappiness. But when I was hypnotized and my teacher was talking to my 5 or 6-year-old self, I realized I had nothing to do with my mom being unhappy. I'm 5 years old. And so as a 5 or 6 years old, as being under hypnosis, I could say, and I could release, that wasn't my problem to take on. I'm a child. And so it really helped empower me to release the guilt feelings that weren't mine to own to begin with.
Right.
So it was an empowerment for me. And so I could rewrite the story that I didn't do it. It was my mom's issues, had nothing to do with me at all. And so the hypnosis was great. But also with hypnosis, that's important for people to know. It's not a one-time deal. I know they have the Russian hypnotist, which is great. My mom actually went to him years ago to quit smoking, and she did for months. So that's great, but usually hypnosis is not a one-time deal. And I think that's also a misconception, that they're going to come one time. And be cured. But it's taken us years to get where we are. As far as our emotional trauma or eating or smoking, whatever it is. And it takes time to help alleviate the challenge. So for adults, it's usually between 7 to 12 sessions. In children, it's usually about 5. And that's just an average. Some people, are shorter. Some people take longer. But I like people to know it's not a one and done. Because I think that's also a misconception as well.
I'm glad that you clarified that, because it seems to make perfect sense. It sounds like this is yet another tool that you have in your toolbox to be able to segue from the hypnosis or the Reiki to the life coaching, because you know how to then have those kinds of conversations. Again, looking at a person who's not broken, who has the capacity to heal themselves by being held in a safe space and able to answer their own questions with some support.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the Reiki and the hypnosis work well together too. If I hypnotize somebody and then do the Reiki, that's wonderful too, because you can start planting positive suggestions into their subconscious while I'm doing the Reiki. So a lot of these go together beautifully. And there's also, I can teach people self-hypnosis.
I was wondering about that.
You can. I can teach people self-hypnosis. You can certainly hypnotize yourself. And so that's another great thing that I may work on to do with the nurses at the hospital, is give a self-hypnosis workshop so I can teach them.
I was wondering if you could do that as a workshop, as a group, or even online, doing it as a group.
Yes, and I didn't realize this before I got certified, but you can even do hypnosis on Zoom. Yeah, you can do it on Zoom. So you don't even have to be face-to-face. I need to be able to see you. So I can't do it just on the phone. It has to be a conference, and I have to be able to see the person's face. But you can even do hypnosis on a Zoom conference call. So if someone's in, Rhode Island, and they want to be hypnotized, we can do that.
That's great.
Yeah. I mean, the Reiki is a little bit different. I need to be with you to do the Reiki. But the hypnosis, I don't.
I think that REAP that I talked about is you can do remotely.
Can you?
Yeah. So probably something for you to look into. for yourself
I
as
have looked
another?
into it a little bit, but
Yeah.
I just can't recall because I didn't look into it deep enough.
Yeah.
But it does sound like
might
it would
just
be
be
something.
another tool for you to be able
Absolutely.
to add, because you're so versatile with all that you know, and I love how open you are to new modalities.
Yeah, I was in corporate for 25 years before I got into this.
Remind me, what did you do before?
I worked at BNY Mellon Bank.
Yeah.
As a transfer agency, so I work with mutual funds.
Yeah.
And if you had ever told me I was going to get into energy healing, I would have said you were crazy, but I got laid off. And, I started off taking a tarot reading card class, and I thought, this might be something fun to do.
That's so funny.
And so I know how to read tarot cards too, which is fun. And then I started getting into aromatherapy, and then from there it's just really blossomed into this whole energy healing.
Yeah.
But I was a life coach, so I was sort of open to different things. Anyway,
Yeah,
I just wouldn't have done it because I was working in corporate and just didn't have time or didn't think about it.
And it seems so odd that those things wouldn't go together. It's interesting because Kathy Clement Frash, who was just on an earlier show, was an electrical engineer for 15 years before she got into her massage therapy.
Okay.
And she's very much also into the more holistic and allow the body to heal itself.
Yeah, isn't that funny?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's, just being in corporate, you just see how unimportant some things can be.
Yeah.
Working in a hospital, I absolutely love it. I've never worked in a hospital before, and I love this whole setting.
Yeah.
I love the patients, I love the nurses. I work for the spiritual care unit, so I'm working with the chaplains.
Yeah.
And it's just such a positive place to be.
Yeah.
And I also do spirit release.
Yeah.
With my hypnosis. Sometimes spirits attach to us.
Yeah.
And so I can do a spirit release.
Yeah.
So I know that can be a little bit
a little woo.
A little woo for some people.
Yeah.
But
I know many people for whom it would not be.
Well, I'll tell you, in my training we had a woman who had said she had gained some weight.
Yeah.
Within the last 6 months. She said, I don't know, all of a sudden I've gained like 30 pounds. And so we hypnotized her, and she had a 17-year-old boy spirit attached to her. Well, what do 17-year-old boys do? They eat.
Yeah.
And they eat. And so we released the spirit.
Yeah.
And, so that's always possible too, if people are open to that.
Amazing.
Yeah, and in a hospital setting, I mean, there's a lot of spirits that are hanging around.
Yeah.
So the nurses asked me recently if I could teach them how to help block their energy or help block other people's energy.
Yeah.
She said that we tend to take on so many of people's energies. The hospital can be a really depressing place.
Mm-hmm.
It can be a very sad place.
Mm-hmm.
So they asked if I could teach them how to block from picking up on other people's energies.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll be doing a workshop, hopefully for that soon.
Oh, that sounds wonderful.
Yeah, because that would be great.
Yeah.
And emotional freedom tapping. I've been also asked if I could consider doing that with the nurses who work in the trauma unit, because they see so much.
Yeah.
And they just take on so much.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard. It's hard when you're working in that environment.
It's hard to unsee things.
Yeah.
Karen, it's about a minute left.
Oh, wow.
In the show. I just wanted to, I always love to ask my guests, as you know from before, what are the top 3 things it takes for you to be totally well in your life?
Yeah, I think I always say self-care first.
Yeah.
I think it's super important. Those are probably my first top 2. And then the last one for me, I think, is, it's all kind of self-care. I was going to say, good eating and exercising, moving your body.
Yeah.
But again, I think it all wraps up into self-care.
Yeah.
I'm such a huge believer in that. You have to take care of yourself before you can take care of anybody else.
Well, you're a great model for it. Your energy has, again, I've seen you grow so much in the time since our first interview, and dealing with the loss of your husband, the grief around that, and how you've really transformed everything into being able to help people in this really expansive way.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm so proud of you, and so grateful that you're in my tribe, and that you're part of this resource available for people. So
well, thank you, and thank you so much for having me again. I love coming on.
Oh, great. Well, let's do it again.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, Thanks for visiting. And again, this is Karen Regan from Karen Regan Energy Healing. KarenReganEnergyHealing.com. And check her out on Facebook as well.
Thank you.